But first, we want to talk about the prospects of another so-called trade war. It's surfacing, and now, of course, with the nation's closest allies after we hit them with fresh tariffs. These allies, of course, firing back after the Trump administration announced that it would no longer exempt Canada, Mexico, or the EU from these steel or aluminum tariffs. The tariffs will take effect tonight at midnight. Already, of course, prompting threats of retaliation from some of Washington's closest allies. These three close nations, of course, involved in other sort of trade talks as well. The White House saying that these tariffs will help protect national security while Trump works on a deal to, of course, secure NAFTA. Critics, of course, saying that it's going to provoke unnecessary trade war. Here now to discuss how Lambert, founder of Point Bridge Capital, also the creator of MAGA, the ETF, Maddie Doppler, Independent Women's Forum visiting fellow, National Taxpayer Union senior fellow. Herb London's with us, London Center for Policy Research president, and DeRoy Murdoch, Fox News contributor. He's also a National Review contributing editor. Herb, I got to start with you.
Okay.
I think most people are, in the conservative circles, hate tariffs. They hate so-called trade wars. I see this as something much bigger than that, particularly on the eve of negotiations with North Korea, China, and trying to renegotiate NAFTA.
I think that one of the things that you have to consider are the political dimensions of this. I'm a free market type. I do have some reservations about these tariffs. You also have to remember the 2018 elections are just over the horizon. And what you're looking at here is an attempt to create an environment where the Midwest, which is very critical in this 2018 election cycle, has to vote with the Republican Party. Trump understands that, just as he understands what the negotiations in North Korea really mean. They really have enormous political ramifications for the United States. So I do get it. You also see a certain kind of backsliding. It's very interesting. The administration goes 3 steps forward, takes 1 step back. 3 steps forward, 1 step back. I'd like to see them.
Is that the art of the deal, or is
well,
that?
It's the art of the deal. To some degree, it is the art of the deal.
Right. So
the dance of the deal.
But here's the thing, also, DeRoy. I mean, let's face it. Canada, Mexico, America, we all sort of watched as China's government subsidized their steel industry. They went from 10 metric tons in 1967 to 800 metric tons, a million metric tons, and of course, we're really insignificant players. And I think the guise of defense perhaps is the only way the administration could go. But I see this as being something bigger than that. To Herb's point, we've seen over 300,000 manufacturing jobs come back to this country, jobs that we were told would never come back. We're seeing these Midwestern states with 2-3% unemployment numbers. Hey, this is what they want. This is what President Trump actually promised on the election trail.
What I find mystifying about this is how President Trump can be so clear-headed on taxing individuals and businesses and so completely wrong-headed when it comes to taxing steel. Tariffs are taxes. The word tariff sounds like somebody overseas pays this and it's an exotic thing that rich people pay. No, they're taxes, and if you buy a new fridge, a new washing machine, a new car, you're going to pay more at the cash register because of these increases in taxes. I think if you want to increase jobs in the Midwest, that's a beautiful thing. What we ought to be doing, as I've said before, is insourcing. Nothing could be better in the election that Herb mentioned than for President Trump to cut the ribbon or break the ground at a Chinese steel factory in Ohio or Pennsylvania or Wisconsin.
Well, could you take it one step further? Since listen, all the classic economists tell us that tariffs are bad, and yet when people look around and they see the hottest economies in the world also have the largest tariffs, it's head scratching. How about the notion of subsidizing American steelmakers? Fight fire with fire. What's wrong with that?
No, I wouldn't do that. What I think really the best thing to do is, what I'd like to see is a trade deal that says the following. Basically, we're going to have a very small 2, 3, 4% across the board tariff or tax, whatever you want to call it, on imports. Apart from that, drop the subsidies, drop the non-tariff barriers, drop the regulations, and just trade back and forth. You want to see growth and prosperity.
Don't you think that's what they're trying to get to ultimately, though?
I hope they do eventually, and maybe this announcement now is a bit like the letter that was sent to North Korea saying the summit's over, and of course they came running back to us. Maybe that's what this is. I hope so. But if this is for real and these taxes are going to stick, this is not good for the economy.
Maddie, your thoughts?
Hey, I like that trade deal that DeRoy just outlined. I'll take that one right away. And I agree with DeRoy on this point. I want to export everything that is great about America, democracy, but also Harley-Davidsons, Kentucky bourbon, everything that we love about this country, I want the rest of the world to be able to experience as well. When you increase tariffs on our products, and then there are retaliatory tariffs in return on American products, you decrease the ability for us to do that. Now, you talk a lot about the Midwest and jobs and the economy there. All of the things that DeRoy listed earlier about about tax reform, deregulation. That is really what is propelling this economy forward. Taking a step backwards and putting a boot on the neck of the economy by increasing tariffs at this point is really playing with fire heading into those midterms. I would like to see Republicans continuing to embrace pro-growth public policy to keep that economy moving forward.
Maddie, how did you explain then to folks that, okay, China has a most favored nation tariff averaging around 12%, India over 14%, and both of these countries have been growing extraordinarily much faster than America. In fact, in 10 years, they'll probably combine be half of the world's GDP. How do we explain to the American public that these countries that block their markets from us, that have these extraordinary tariffs, are enjoying amazing economic prosperity, and we shouldn't employ the same tactics?
It's super easy to grow when you start from zero, right? That's the thing with these economies.
I'm talking about China passing us up in a decade.
But look at what's happening with both China, India, these countries that are growing. They have huge populations, which fuels that growth, but they've also started at a much lower point than the United States has. Yes, the United States needs to stay competitive, but we are doing so when we do things like reducing the corporate tax rate, making it the right choice to invest back here in the United States. We do not do the right thing by increasing barriers to our export and import systems that just artificially restrict the markets and the availability for American commerce.
Hal, what are your thoughts?
Charles, let's not forget who the economic superpower at the table is. We hold all the cards. We've been negotiating under our weight class for years as though these countries are economic equals. They're not. We are 20 times larger than Mexico. We're 11 times larger than Canada. We're $3 trillion greater than the EU. These countries it would be economic suicide for them to do any meaningful retaliation. The EU came out today and said, well, we may put $3 billion worth of duties on exports into our country from the U.S. $3 billion, we have a $20 trillion economy. That's less than Mark Zuckerberg
So are you
and Jeff
okay
Bezos
then with
made
this
in the
latest
last
move
3
then,
days.
Hal? Are you fine with this move as a negotiating ploy, or do you see something more involved here, something akin to trying to bring back industries that have left and we were told could never come back?
Well, no, what we're trying to do is get to fair trade, which we don't have. I mean, this is a new world order. We're finally going to negotiate as an economic superpower, which we haven't been doing. So I think this is really where we're headed, is to a better situation for the United States. And that's what I think. We've thrown flyover country in the United States under the bus with these negotiations
quick, Maddie,
in the past.
you echoed the same thing. You said, America, we've got this great big economy.
Yeah.
Have we been underperforming? Have we been too intimidated by I mean, every time I hear about the challenges that face this country and potential solutions, the knee-jerk reaction is, well, it's going to hurt these people. It's going to hurt those people. But there's never really an alternative, a real alternative, to bring China, Canada, Mexico, and everyone else back to a fairer negotiations and a fair trade system with us.
I agree that we've been systematically underperforming because our rules and regulations have not been in line with a competitive economy. So I do think that we need to rethink how we do everything. That's taxes, that's trade, that's regulation. But that does not mean that increasing tariffs is the right way to go. I think you can both look at our trade system, recognize that there are problems and that we're not fighting at full force, without arguing that increasing tariffs and increasing barriers is the way to go. I simply think that that's a false choice.
All right, thank you all.